All right, you guys, there's something that's been on my mind and I really want to talk about it. I don't understand why people want to manifest their exes back, especially the ones that kind of treated them terribly. Like, there's so much video out here, there's so much content on people manifesting their specific person back, or manifesting their ex back, and someone who has kind of treated them a little bad. And I might be a little biased here, but I really want to talk about it because I do feel like I got something to say about it. And what I mean by that is, do we ever look at why? Like, what is the intention behind wanting to manifest a ex back, especially one that has treated you terribly and made you feel like nothing, made you feel a little low of yourself? Like, what is the reason that you want them back? Like, why? And to me, that really signals a little bit of shame and guilt for some reason. So I think that's why I have a little bit of a hard time when people want to manifest someone back, specifically because it's kind of subtle to where you would not recognize that this may actually be a problem. I'm always baffled by stories that I see when people say like, oh, like, well, my SP contacted me today, but then they said something really mean, but it's okay, circumstances don't matter. And I'm like, your internal circumstances do matter. And you guys know how much I talk about guilt and shame and anger and the scale of consciousness and where a lot of those things are. And you have to realize that as we are growing and we are switching in our identity, that a lot of these things are playing out before our eyes. And to me, it's just kind of a little difficult to see that, because I'm wondering, where is the disconnect within ourselves when we are saying that we want certain things and certain people, and what is it really triggering? What I find is that people really have a tendency to show us how we truly feel about ourselves. I think it's the problem because a lot of people don't even consider getting into manifestation or even considering changing their self-concept until they want to manifest their ex back or manifest a specific person into their life. And I'm like, why? Because there's some guilt and shame there that you have to understand when it comes to why you're wanting to manifest someone back that has treated you terribly. So let's take a look at that real quick. If you guys know, when I talk about shame and guilt specifically, shame and guilt always has an underlying tone of making you feel the need to prove something, to prove to someone that you are worthy of something. And it usually stems back from us feeling ashamed or having situations that have brought on shame, where we have felt that we needed to go through our life and to prove why we are good, or why we are worthy of something, or why this person should love us, or why that person should love us. Is it truly that you think that you and this person are good together or a good match? Or is it the desire to get them back to validate that you are not guilty or ashamed of something, that you're not guilty or ashamed that the relationship did not work out? And it may not even be necessarily because of you or because of them, or it may just be that you guys are not on the same path. But if you are trying to manifest them back to prove that they should love you, then that's an issue. You have to ask yourself, are you guilty or are you ashamed that the relationship did not work out? So are you manifesting them back just to say, oh, see, I knew it would work back, instead of pinpointing where that guilt and that shame is stemming from, or something that has happened in your life that you're afraid to look at as a reason why you need a person to come in and cover it up. And you think by just manifesting them that you are absolved of actually working on yourself, or working on the things and changing the things that caused it in the first place, that have maybe brought it on in the first place. And this is not specifically for everybody, but I'm talking about the people who want to manifest back the people who just treated them like shit. So again, is it the fact that you feel like you guys would be great together, or is it the neediness of wanting them back? Because the neediness overlooks the fact that the feelings that you have betrayed yourself and your boundaries, knowingly or unknowingly, like that you have betrayed yourself and your boundaries when they have treated you poorly, when you didn't stand up for yourself, when you wasn't clear on your yeses and your desires of what you wanted in a relationship. And when you've gotten to the point of just accepting, are you wanting them back to fix that? Or are you wanting them back because you believe that this is your soulmate? Or what about the people who have went out their way to treat you like crap? Like, what do you want them back for? It's like you're trying to prove something to yourself that has nothing to do with a specific person, if that makes sense. What I find interesting in all of this is because doing the work on figuring out your identity and shaping your identity, when you finally decide to work on the things that you need to work on to start feeling good about yourself, to generate the feelings of feeling worthy, and to start working it out and kind of pinpointing the little things and understanding where the shame and the guilt is coming from. Once you start to do that, you'll start to realize the things that you liked about said person are the things that you really wanted to accumulate for yourself, such as, liking them for the boundaries that they held and for the self-respect that they had, and even being able to understand and still choose their choices regardless of how that made you feel, or how that their ability to be selfish with the things that they wanted. Somewhere in you was wanting those things. And if you realize that you are trying to get that person back because you want those things for yourself, but you haven't really pinpointed what you needed to work on to get those things from yourself, that is in itself a problem. Because when I think back to thinking about wanting an ex back, it was the fact that they were clear on their choices and they were able to still choose their choices, and they did it with no shame. That is the point that a lot of us overlook when we get pushed around in life, and when we are used in a way where we feel used, is because a lot of people are clear on their boundaries. The person that you were with was probably clear on their boundaries and the things that they wanted out of their life with no shame. And so those things in a way kind of trigger us, and we think by getting that person back in our lives that it absolves us of actually doing the work and really understanding what our triggers are, so that way that we can transmute them and understand and never go back to them. A lot of people don't think about root traumas and mental illnesses, and we try to cover up some of those things with just manifesting it away, but not actually going to understand it. And sometimes you happen to get with people who have certain mental illnesses, and I don't want to throw around the word narcissist, but there are a lot of people with narcissistic traits that we're attached to, and then we don't realize we want them back because of whatever we were missing in our lives and whatever we failed to realize and recognize within ourselves. And we think by manifesting them back, and think by, doing whatever, that person will somehow conform to what you are wanting to do, or wanting them to play in their life, in your life, what role you are wanting them to play in your life. Why I say that is because as we know, two things can be true at one time. So you have to remember that if there's a scale of consciousness and you're somewhere on that scale, you have to realize that someone else is on that scale too. And you guys may not be in the same area, floating around the same area. So the way that you see your worldview is one way, and the reason that you want them in your life for a certain reason, for the role that you would like for them to play, they also have you in their life for a certain role that they would like for you to play, whether that is to be a partner or the loving and caring partner, or whether it is to be the person that they put all the blame on for everything, or they wanted to put in a third party, that they willingly went out the way to put you in a third party. They wanted you to be on the side. And sometimes you have to realize that that has nothing to do with us, because I think we see manifesting as a way of trying to get people under our control. And if you have free will with the way that you think, then other people have free will with the way they think too. And it's not always going to be on the same level at the same time. And that's okay, because sometimes we come in and we meet people in order to trigger a change within us. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you go back, because what if that person did not work on things in the way that they needed to in order for it to be acceptable to your new worldview, is what I'm saying. I feel like that's a hard pill to swallow, to know that maybe you're supporting the worldview that they have, even if you don't see it that way. Even if you don't see it that way. And sometimes that can be to harm you. Be real, people come back for their ego. People always go back for their ego. And you have to say that you go back for your ego too, because while you're sitting there manifesting and working on your desire of wanting this person back, and waiting and saying a third party doesn't matter, the third party doesn't matter, and you want to be with them because, oh, you feel like you're the best choice, that is also coming from ego as well. So I'm wanting us to just check the intentions behind it, because we all do things for our ego to some extent. Funny thing out of all this is the fact that once you do work on yourself and you kind of see the changes that you want to make in your identity, and when you form a whole new world view, of course you are magnetic. Of course, when you start adopting the things that you really like about that person, that maybe you wanted to be with them because they were, you know, confident or whatever. But then when you start to work on being confident, like, of course you're going to be magnetic. Of course people are going to want to come back. And of course they're going to want to come back, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're back for you in that way. You read some of these stories, or like you just see kind of far out when people tell their stories, they don't always stay with the person. And why is that? They don't stay with the person. Even if they did get back with a person, it's because you've made such a shift in your identity that you and that person are no longer on the same wavelength. So what would happen to someone if they were manifesting a specific person, and the only reason they did everything was to get the person? You're going to just go back to being how you was because you did not get that person. And once again, this is me talking about people wanting back the exes who have treated them like crap, or who have intentionally put them in a third party, or have made a choice that said, yeah, it's not going to be you. Why do you want them back? Why isn't it easier for you to just try to manifest a specific person from the place of you being solid in your identity and solid in who you were when you've discovered those boundaries? And I know we can place the meaning on everything, you guys. Remember that video I made, that you are what gives anything meaning, is that you can say like, okay, I've met this person for the reason that I didn't realize that I still needed to work out a little bit of my shame. I still needed to take a look at certain things. I still needed to progress in a few ways. And this situation helped me to see it. And you don't always have to go back to the situation. And I'm not saying that some of these relationships don't work out, but you have to realize that maybe that relationship only worked out because you were playing the role that you needed to play for that person, and not playing it from a point of you actually being that main character. And once you become that main character, sometimes you'll look at that situation and see that you were better than that situation. And there's nothing wrong with that. one thing for sure, two things for certain. The way that we do relationships with others is the way that we do the relationships with ourselves. So when it comes to manifesting a specific person back into your life, people are not pawns that you can use to necessarily play in your game when it comes to you manifesting, because they have just as much free will as you do. And so they have a worldview completely separate from yours. And also that has nothing to do with you. So this is why I say that you meet certain things with indifference, because at the end of the day, regardless of if they are back in your life or not, that should not negate the fact that you are on the way to becoming a totally different person. And even if you don't get that person, you will get someone who fits into your worldview, right? So at the end of the day, what this really tells me is that it is not about getting a specific person back. And what do we do anything for? We're not doing any of this or doing any type of manifesting to necessarily get to get the thing. It is to become, it is to be the person that we always wanted to be. So at the end of the day, could you really say that it is a person outside of you that you are looking for? Are you not the specific person that you are looking for, the specific person that you are desiring to become, the specific person who has what they want out of life? Is that not you?